You know, it's William Dafoe's character who's trying. It's Willem. My whole life I've been saying William Dafoe.
Hey everybody, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Albert.
And welcome to the Fifth Star, a podcast where we are trying to find our next 5-star movie. And once we find it, this podcast will have its soul sucked out of it.
Today we are reviewing Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, the legacy sequel to the 1988 classic. And I don't know when you saw this movie, but did you know that this movie actually had a huge opening weekend?
Yes.
It broke 110 million this weekend. When you watched it, was the theater crowded?
Not really. But I also watched it on Sunday night. And I feel like that's not a peak time.
Oh, you don't think it is?
No, because it's Monday, start of the work week.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it on a Saturday night. I actually went by myself.
Was it packed?
It was empty.
Oh, dang.
It was totally empty. And I mean, there was one group of teenagers, but it was pretty empty. And so I was surprised by this number. 110 million over opening weekend. It's the third largest opening weekend for a movie this year. Behind Inside Out 2 and Deadpool vs. Wolverine.
Not Dune?
Yeah, it beat Dune. Yeah. Which is
shocking.
Yeah, so it did really well. And it was actually the second largest movie opening in September for an opening weekend.
That's crazy.
Ever. So, yeah, I think, this movie has a lot of hype around it, a lot of excitement. We reviewed Beetlejuice, the original last episode.
Yep.
So that kind of got us all excited for this. Yeah, so Beetlejuice is about, it follows the Winona Ryder character and that Dietz family pretty much the 36 years that have passed by. Essentially, the inciting incident is that the Charles, the wife of this Catherine O'Hara, the husband of Catherine O'Hara's character, dies.
Yes.
And they're having a funeral, and that brings kind of all of the family back together. And it's three generations.
And back to the old house.
And there's Winona Ryder's character now has had a child.
Yes.
Who's the Jenna Ortega character. And so it's kind of three generations of Dietz coming back for this funeral that then kicks off kind of all the different circumstances that will bring Beetlejuice back into their life.
Yes.
I would say.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
Okay. We've both written down our ratings that we gave this movie secretly on the other side of this whiteboard. And we're now going to guess what each other gave it. Mm-hmm. So what do you think I gave it?
No, you guessed me first.
Okay. I think you gave it... So last episode, you gave the original 2.5.
Yep.
I'm going to guess you gave this a 1.5.
Okay.
So I think you went lower.
1.5.
Yeah. What do you think I gave it?
So you liked the original.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5.
And I feel like with this movie, it's going to be polarizing. Mm-hmm. So you either really liked it or you absolutely hated it.
Okay.
I don't think you would give this movie a basic 3.
Okay.
You're going to go above or below. I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to say...
Which way? Up or down?
I don't know. I'm going to say you gave it a 3.5, just like you gave the original.
Okay. So 3.5.
Yeah, but I don't feel good about this guess.
Okay. And if we both give this movie a 5.0, this will be our last episode, right? So... You will have to see if that happens. We are going to reveal our scores after we give our initial thoughts.
Yep.
And then we'll go into the spoilers section of our review. So what did you think of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice?
So I'm actually really glad that we went through Tim Burton's filmography.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like this is such a cool bookend of his career almost. Because Beetlejuice,
You're right.
Other than Pee-wee's, Beetlejuice was basically his first feature that he got to really, be super hands-on with.
And it was kind of the thing that made him a household name.
Kind of,
right?
yeah. It's it set the tone. It showed his style. It was very unique. And And now he's come out with this movie, and it's kind of cool just to see like his growth over his career, and also just like seeing little flavors from his movies since then come into this movie. I thought that was really cool. Like, so towards the beginning, we actually get to hear Beetlejuice's backstory, which I won't go into, but you actually get to find out like how he became what he is. And the stylization of it kind of reminded me of Ed Wood.
You're right. Yeah, black and white.
Yeah, and then the beginning was very like Vampira.
Yes.
Like the Winona Ryder's whole like outfit and everything, it felt very Vampira, her talking directly to camera. I was like,
you're right.
I'm seeing like little flavors of his work.
Also,
in
that was
this
like kind of
movie.
an Ed Wood type of callback, right?
Yeah.
That
yeah.
character.
And then there were other little like almost Easter eggs in the movie.
So that Beetlejuice kind of backstory section, black and white, apparently it was like an homage to like Italian horror.
Which Tim Burton loves.
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes total sense.
Yeah, because Beetlejuice speaks in voiceover in Italian, like dubbed.
Yeah.
And it's like subtitled and everything.
It's so good.
So it was pretty interesting. It was a cool way to do it.
And then the claymation, the whole claymation part, it was very much like an homage to his love for claymation and like his previous movies.
I'm
all
so
claymation.
glad he did that.
It was cool.
I love that part of it. It's the whole story of how Charles dies. And so do you know why he's not in this movie?
The actor actually died?
Yeah, no.
He didn't?
He's very much alive. He's been canceled for like a few decades because he is... I mean, I don't want to get into all the details.
My gosh, I didn't know that. I didn't look
very
up.
sketchy. He got arrested for very sketchy.
He died.
No, so he's basically like blacklisted, canceled, whatever. And
that's
so
awkward.
This is a really interesting way to write out that character, and then kind of tell like how he died. Use that as like the catalyst to bring the whole family back together for this funeral.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I love that airplane kind of whole segment with the claymation. That was great. That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Oh no, I was so off. Oh no.
I don't know. I might be really off too.
Dang.
So okay, so it seemed like you kind of liked this movie then.
I thought it was fun because, and I don't know if I would have appreciated it as much if we hadn't like gone through, his career, I guess.
Interesting.
But also I found it a lot funnier than the original, and maybe that's because like I'm, the new generation or whatever, because I remember the 80s movie didn't really have me laughing out loud anyway. Did
it feel too like campy and old?
I don't know if it was that, because like campy and old doesn't really bother me. It was more just like the plot and the heart, I guess. But then also the humor style wasn't really like my style, I guess. This new one, oh my gosh, Catherine O'Hara had me cackling, and Justin Theroux's character was so funny.
Really?
I thought he was hilarious. I kept laughing every time he like dramatically entered, although he was really, really a caricature. I did not care about him at all. But like,
so the Justin Theroux character, just for those who haven't seen it, he is like the producer on. So Winona Ryder, basically, she's running her own TV show now.
Yeah.
And Justin Theroux is like her boyfriend slash producer, and he proposes to her.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of about their relationship as one of the major storylines.
For sure. And I think what's so interesting about his character, and I was thinking about this a lot, but like he could not have existed in the original movie, because a character like him like just wasn't a thing in the 80s really. Like he was very much like a modern addition. Yeah. Where it's like we're bringing in like modern culture into this movie now because he was like woke and like hyper spiritual.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like he was all of these things that like just didn't really exist in the 80s, I think. So it's kind of interesting to bring a character like him into this movie.
I totally agree about Catherine O'Hara. She's so funny. I wasn't as into her character in the original, but I thought in this one she was hilarious.
She was funnier in this one.
Yeah. Like I think the only parts that I really laughed at were like her stuff.
Her stuff.
Yeah, like the 2 or 3 times I like genuinely laughed out loud
Yeah.
was like her lines or her
Not
little.
Beetlejuice's lines?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah,
I knew you were going to love it or hate it.
But Catherine O'Hara, you're definitely right about that. But Catherine O'Hara, she was really great. And, you know, she was kind of like a side character throughout this movie, but like whenever she kind of had her little lines or, you know, she had this kind of like antagonism towards the Justin Theroux character. Like
Yeah.
she didn't, you know, as the stepmother-in-law, like she didn't like the fact that they were getting together, and she was like very snarky with him and stuff. And that stuff came across like really funny. But I did not like Justin Theroux's character. I thought he was so dumb, not funny at all, just a complete waste of
I mean, he was dumb, but he was dumb in a funny way.
I don't know. I didn't think it was funny at all.
Oh, man.
But what do you think about the big thing that's different? Because I think Justin Theroux is still kind of part of the feel of the original. He's kind of in, you know, because the Otho character,
Yes.
like he kind of replaces that.
He kind of replaces Otho,
character.
yeah.
But the one new addition is Jenna Ortega as the daughter, you know, and she's kind of really the one bringing in the new generation. You know, Jenna Ortega is much bigger among the younger generation. What did you think about her?
Yes, that's actually another thing. I did like this movie. That is another thing that I liked about her.
I'm so off.
Is that Jenna Ortega, I thought, had it was way easier connecting with her character than it was connecting with Winona Ryder in the original.
I think I agree with
because
that, yeah.
she just had more character development and more scenes where she just felt very human and very like sympathetic.
Yeah.
You know? And you like it's easier to root for her than it was to root for Winona Ryder. Because Winona Ryder, you like in the original, you felt like bad for her, but you weren't really sure why you felt bad for her.
She was just kind of like sad girl.
Yeah.
Just kind of.
It's like, yeah, she lost her mom, but like what happened there?
But the Jenna Ortega character, she's much more emotive and like you feel
Yeah.
more, like you can connect with her and sympathize. I agree with that, yeah.
And I thought they did a good job of like setting her up.
Mm-hmm.
And making her feel like very much a part of the world, even though she's like the new character in the story.
And she's kind of like the most fleshed out character, I think, in this movie. Like a lot of this is about her wanting to kind of missing her dad.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's kind of like upset at Winona Ryder's character, her mom, because, you know, her mom can supposedly see all these ghosts, but can't see her dad, who's like died. And so she's like kind of bitter about that, and she doesn't even believe that ghosts are real.
Yeah.
So she thinks her mom is just like this kind of hack who's like running this TV show, which, by the way, the TV show is called Ghost House, and it's kind of like a funny homage to like the, you know, how the studio had wanted to change the title of the original Beetlejuice to
Ghost House.
or House Ghosts. So it was like a flip.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a funny little Easter egg for that, I think. But yeah, so I did like Jenna Ortega in this movie. Like I hadn't seen her in anything. Had you seen Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay. So was she good in that too?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like what blew her up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's good in that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of hers. I like that she kind of was written into this and kind of brings some fresh energy. I thought actually Winona Ryder in this movie was like even worse than the first one.
She was very almost one note, I would say.
Yeah.
Like she was kind of playing the same emotion in every scene.
Yeah, and she felt just so stale the whole movie. Like, I don't know what it was, but I could not connect to her character at all. You know, like her whole thing with getting married potentially to Justin Theroux's character and stuff. It was just so like.
I think like it was hard to understand what she was thinking. You couldn't understand why she was making the choices she was making. And that kind of makes it harder to like connect with her because you're just sort of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
and
I felt that too.
And she's like estranged from her daughter, like.
But you don't quite understand why.
Yeah.
And then you don't quite understand why she's marrying this guy.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like she's really making that much of an effort with her daughter. Like, like she knows they're estranged, but she's not really going out of her way to like
And you
repair
can't tell if
things.
she actually cares about her career.
Yeah, like she
Yeah.
seems like she's just kind of doing it.
Yeah.
Like just everything about her character just seemed very
I agree. It's hard to
Yeah.
tell her motivation. Yeah. Until something happens in the
yes,
plot.
which we'll talk about in
Yeah.
spoilers.
But anyway.
That's really when the movie kind of starts to kick off.
Yeah.
Because even before that, like you see a little bit of Beetlejuice, but it's kind of similar to this to the original, where Beetlejuice is actually pretty downplayed. Like he doesn't have as much screen time. Again, like you would think that they would be making Beetlejuice,
Yeah.
and the whole thing would have been like cashing in on Michael Keaton Beetlejuice, and just like they would have way overdone it with that character. But that was not the case at all. Like it was very much, he just kind of has his different parts throughout the story, but he's not really the main part of the story at all.
Yeah.
Just like the first one.
I will also say though, I'm really glad that he stuck to the practical effects.
Okay.
He didn't do hardly any CGI, I felt like, or noticeable CGI. The only times that I like really noticed it was when it was like really bad, but it was like purposefully bad CGI. And then the rest of the time it felt like, wow, he really stuck to his
Classic style.
of like making everything very practical,
I
which was
mean-
gross, but
Yeah. I do like that it still had that stop motion feel.
not just that though. Like I'm talking about, like the people getting, turned into
shrunken.
balloons.
Oh yeah, that's true. That did seem
That was practical, and
That
then
looked cool.
the his spilling his
Guts.
guts.
Yeah.
That was all practical.
And then like when he does the whole like revealing his face from behind, that he did that again,
That was
and that was
practical.
practical. Based on the last, the original, which we recently just rewatched, and so it's very fresh.
yeah,
Even with that, like I wasn't crazy about the plot
yeah,
and everything, but the two things that I loved was the makeup and the practical effects with kind of the makeup and all of that kind of tied in, and the other one was Beetlejuice and Michael Keaton's performance as Beetlejuice, right? So I think the practical effects and the makeup, that stuff was all pretty much kind of even with the original. Like I think if that's what you are coming for the sequel for, like you're still gonna get that. You're gonna get the world.
Yeah.
So Tim Burton does a good job of kind of bringing that back to life and giving you more of that, and kind of expanding a little bit in little areas of that world. So I do think that still delivered, and that was good. It wasn't necessarily better than the original, but that's fine because
the bar kind of raises too because of technology and advancement and whatever.
But so that was fine. But the big part of this movie that just failed for me was Beetlejuice. First of all, I wanted more. I wanted more of Beetlejuice, and I wanted not only more screen time, I wanted more of him to be more prominent in the story. And that wasn't the case. It was kind of like the same as the first one, which is the reason why like that movie wasn't like 4.0 or 4.5 for me, right? It was like a 3.5. But the thing that didn't work for me for this was I did not think Michael Keaton brought the same kind of energy or personality as he did with the first one. Like the whole movie, he's just like, he's just like kind of mumbling like all low like this, and never gets like crazy, never gets manic. Like the whole original, like he's so unhinged, like so unpredictable. I mean, he has the whole like perverted side of him, which they totally cut out of this, which is fine. I think that's fine, but none of the kind of craziness and the zaniness. Like he's just very like almost like this mellowed out. Like he seems like Beetlejuice actually became like a grandpa.
Oh
and
my
even
gosh.
though Michael Keaton is like covered in makeup and stuff and looks like the part, it was almost like a kind of washed up Beetlejuice for me. And when that part of it, which was like the very best part of the magic of the original, is just kind of like meh, there was like nothing left for me to really like latch onto for this movie.
Wow.
What did you think of Beetlejuice?
I mean, I loved that he was more mellowed out in this one.
Oh,
I
yeah, 'cause
actually
you-
liked him more because he wasn't just nasty constantly, but he still was gross.
yeah,
He still did a lot of gross stuff.
yeah, like the guts. What did you think of Baby Beetlejuice?
The worst part for me.
When I
The worst part.
when I saw Baby Beetlejuice, I was like, oh my gosh, David's gonna hate this.
It was very Rosemary's Baby for sure.
Yeah, Rosemary had some kind of Exorcist type of vibes.
Alien.
Yeah.
It was gross.
It was gross, but I kind of appreciated it. I was like, it's creepy, but I'm glad it's creeping me out, kind of thing.
You and I are just like on opposite pages. Should we go into the spoiler section?
Okay. Yes, let us reveal our
Because we have a lot more to
things.
say.
Yeah, I do have another big thing that I didn't like about this movie, but
Oh, me too.
okay. So you guessed that I will give it a 3.5, and I gave it a 2.0.
I was actually thinking he probably gave it a 2.5. So I was even wrong with my
Well, I was
backup guess.
I was between a 2.0 and a 2.5, but there
Wow.
are just too many things that I did not like about this movie that didn't work
Dang.
for me that I had to give it a 2.0.
That's fair.
I feel I really wanted to like it. I wanted
Yeah.
it to retain like the things. I just wanted more of what I liked of the first one.
You guessed 1.5?
And we're doing it out of a 5-point scale, by the way.
Yes.
We don't always mention that.
3.5.
Wow. So we basically, if I gave this a 2.5, we would have just flipped on our original to
We
sequel
did.
scores.
And you can tell like our
Wow.
generational gap here.
So basically, I like the original because it was made for my time, and you
Yeah,
like this one because it was made for your time.
I guess. I
your
just
generation.
I'll tell you now though,
Okay.
like what I didn't like about it.
Okay.
So this was like a 4-star for me for the majority of it actually.
Whoa.
It wasn't until I did predict some of the plot twists.
Okay.
Like I did predict
spoiler section?
Yeah, we're in the
Spoiler section.
I did predict that the boy was dead. And I did predict that he killed his parents.
Whoa. So you actually, okay, let's just pause for a second because there were multiple twists here. Like first it was that the boy was dead, and then it was that, because then he says, oh yeah, I'm dead, but my parents, died, and like I just died falling out of a tree, and then it gets twisted again and says that he killed them.
So
you
I
predicted
didn't
both of those.
So I didn't predict he was dead until she goes to his house again and he's wearing the exact same outfit. And then I was
so
like,
you
oh,
picked
he's
up
dead.
on that. Wow.
Because like he was wearing the same clothes. And then I didn't predict that he killed his parents until he's like, that's my mom and that's my dad. And I was like, oh, he totally murdered his parents.
Oh.
No. Sorry. It wasn't that point. It was a little later. When he tells her he wants to be alive again, I was like, oh, he's about to trick her. Why is he going to trick her? Because he's a psychopath.
Oh,
That's
and
when
he
I
killed.
figured it out.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah.
So for me, like I didn't think he was dead at first. And then when she goes back to the house and he's showing her around the house before they go upstairs, and he goes, oh, that's my mom, that's my dad, and we don't see their faces. I was thinking like, oh, the parents are dead.
But he's still
alive. Yeah.
Living in a house by himself?
I guess that should have cued that like he's dead, because if they're dead and ghosts and he could see them, then that means he's a ghost.
He would have been put in foster care.
Yeah, but what they did a really smart thing of like Winona Ryder's character when she drops I think Astrid is the daughter's name. Astrid off at the house, like she could see the boy through the window and goes like, oh, he's cute or whatever. That totally threw me off. And I was like, oh, I guess he's not dead. So I think I might have had suspicions.
She can see ghosts too.
I mean, I did know that, but they just did a really good job with that, I thought.
That's fair.
And so I didn't guess that he was dead, but I did guess that the parents were dead. But I totally didn't see that he had killed them. So that did come as a surprise. But okay, so continue on.
What I didn't like is how they resolved everything. Because the setup, I was eating it up. I was like, this is great. I like all the characters. I like the world. They're doing a great job with like, keeping the intrigue and the mystery. They're building tension. Like, this is getting good. And then like the soul-sucking lady, aka Beetlejuice's, ex-wife. I loved all that setup and like getting to see his origin story. I was like, oh, cool. Like I actually like am interested in Beetlejuice now because he has like a backstory. And so I loved all of that. And then as soon as like everything starts to like come together, as soon as Beetlejuice stamps the dude's passport, and then he like
Oh.
falls into the abyss. I was like, are you kidding me? No way. They gotta bring him back. I was like, no way he's dead. Like, no way. That was too easy.
That
It was so easy.
It was so easy. It
and
was.
I was like, this is the bad guy, the psychopathic bad boy, and you're just gonna have Beetlejuice like stamp him and he's dead.
Yeah, and literally the scene right before that, I think, from what I remember, was like Beetlejuice and Winona Ryder are like, "Oh, we gotta go save our daughter" or whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the tension was there.
Yeah, and then like so they like save the daughter, and then it was like, "Oh, but the bad guy's getting away," and then he's like going to stamp his thing so he can get on the Soul Train or get on the get a passport to like out into the real world.
Yeah.
And then like right at that moment of tension, like immediately after the previous scene that was like setting up that thing, like it's just Beetlejuice and he stamps the thing, and then he pushes him into.
A cop out.
Yeah, it was such a cop out. You're right.
It was so, and I kept thinking too. I was like, no, he's not gonna actually be dead. He's gonna show up again. And he didn't. And I was like, dang, that is just brutal to like get rid of a really good antagonist like that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they were setting up the soul sucking lady as like a really big bad.
Yeah.
And then they resolved her thing like super fast.
Yeah, like because then they all end up at the wedding, and then like the sandworm, Astrid calls a sandworm. And
yeah,
then, like,
and
just
it's what I
eats her.
didn't like about the first one too.
Mm,
I was
you're
really
right.
irritated that like they set up all this bad stuff and then they resolve it like with a snap of a finger, and I was like, well, that just sucked everything out of the movie.
Yeah.
And so same thing happened with this movie, and I was kind of like, dang it, like they had really good setup and then just not good payoff. And so that was like a big bummer. But
so this is what, and there's a reason why this happened with what, them just disposing of the boyfriend like really quickly. I think his name was Jeremy, which I like that character and he did great. But other than Beetlejuice being too dumbed down and not bringing this to juice like he did from the original, the other major flaw that I had with the problem that I had with this movie was there were just way too many storylines. There were too many characters and too many storylines, too much to follow. None of it really got like fleshed out well. And it was to the point that like I couldn't even keep it all in my mind. Like, what were all the different storylines and things going on? So I actually kind of like put this out on a little spreadsheet or a little white pad here, and I'm just going to talk through it for those who aren't watching on video, but if you are, you can kind of see like me move these characters around. But I wanted to just like lay out what all the storylines start off with, that kind of are there. So you have Winona Ryder, and then she is connected with Justin Theroux's character, right? It's all about like their relationship, their marriage. And then you have Catherine O'Hara, who's kind of like doing her own thing throughout a lot of the movie. Like she's just there. She's, there to mourn and grieve. And then she gets the snakes. And then like she's all doing this on her own. And she dies. And then she's like wandering around the afterlife on her own. So she's just kind of doing her own thing. Then you have Jenna Ortega, daughter, who gets connected to this boy. So they're kind of, and then
more
the boy,
of a plot.
Yeah. And then the boy is the one that's like, oh, you want to see your dad? I can take you there, and then tricks her. Right. And then you have this whole thing with Dolores, who is the ex-wife of Beetlejuice, who gets assembled, accidentally, and then which her assembly scene with the stapling, that was really well done. I thought that was great.
Really well done. It was just really long.
It was long. Yeah, it was drawn out. And then with that comes William Dafoe's character, which we haven't even mentioned, but he's like supposedly kind of one of the big characters because he initially
he
interrogates.
Doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, but they give him a lot of like little bits every time he does the coffee, and the assistant gives him a coffee just so he can crush it as he says a line really dramatically, So yeah, he's just kind of there, and it's William Dafoe's character who's trying. It's Willem. My whole life I've been saying William Dafoe. Willem Dafoe, who is basically trying to interrogate Beetlejuice because now this big bad, Dolores character is soul sucking all these people, right? So really there are kind of like 4 storylines going on here.
Kind of. I would argue there's 2 main storylines.
And the main storyline, I think one of them is Astrid and Jeremy,
yes,
right?
And then this.
And then the Monica, yeah, because really when Jeremy takes Astrid into the afterlife,
Yeah.
then when Lydia finds out about it, she goes over and then calls Beetlejuice together,
Yes.
and then goes after to try to connect, with all of the, with her daughter and everything, and
Yeah.
try to find them.
Yeah.
So it kind of becomes about like the four of these characters, Beetlejuice, Winona Ryder, the boyfriend, and the daughter, right?
Right.
And that's kind of the main story. And then again, Catherine O'Hara is kind of doing her own thing. Justin Theroux is just waiting at the altar, right? Like he's just in afterlife or in the real world. And then Monica Bellucci, after they set her up as the big bad and kind of her character, she literally disappears for like
B plot.
Not even B plot. She disappears from the movie altogether, except like one scene where she'll come in and just like soul suck somebody and then like disappear again.
Yeah.
And she doesn't come back until like the wedding, all the way at the very end.
So this is what I wanted to happen.
Yeah.
And maybe you're going to say the same thing.
Okay.
But like, I thought Beetlejuice was going to recruit Winona Ryder's character and be like, hey, I'll help you get your daughter back if you help me get rid of my ex-wife. That's what I thought he was going to do. And I was like excited for that storyline to happen. And then he didn't. And then I had the same feeling of like, well, what about the ex-wife? Like, I thought she was a big problem.
Yeah.
She's killing dead people. And it's like, wait, he's just going to help her if she marries him. And it's like, this is just the plot of the first one again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there are, yes, two major storylines that are crammed into this one movie. And there's not enough time that they give for both. And because there are two bad people, Monica Bellucci and Jeremy, that's why I think they just quickly dispatch of the boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then they're really setting up the climax of now Winona Ryder and comes out with Astrid, saves her, and then goes to the wedding, so now Justin Theroux's there. And then, Beetlejuice kind of follows, the mom is there. And then the Monica Bellucci comes in to try to kill everyone and get Beetlejuice, and then Willem Dafoe brings all his henchmen, and then it becomes this horrible mess at this wedding scene where they're all there all of a sudden arbitrarily, and then everyone just gets kind of killed, or Beetlejuice gets inflated and explodes.
The contract is null and void.
Yeah, just arbitrarily because Astrid just suddenly has all of the codes and of the law of the book memorized, even though she's never really read it. And so, yeah, it just it's
so
just.
Don't you think it would have been better if he recruited her to help her get rid of the ex-wife?
So I thought that they should have just gotten rid of Monica Bellucci's whole character and that storyline. Get rid of her and Willem Dafoe, and then get rid of Justin Theroux, and make it a story about mother-daughter. So Winona Ryder, the whole heartbeat of the story is Winona Ryder and the daughter, right? And it's their estrangement. And then, the whole Charles getting killed, they could have explained that, but the funeral should have been for her dad.
Yeah.
Because even the dad is just a throwaway character in this. He randomly is working at the
They didn't
ticket
need
booth.
to keep bringing him back in.
Yeah. And, but that's the heartbeat of it. It's the father just suddenly dies.
Yeah.
Astrid is away in this boarding school. The only person in the family that got her is now gone. And then she goes to her mom and is like, bring him back. I want to see him. And then the mom is like, no, I can't see him. And then all this stuff. And then we shouldn't go there. And then I actually thought that through Catherine O'Hara talking with, the daughter, is the one that kind of tells her about the house and about, there might be a way. There might be a way for you to see your dad and kind of access the afterworld and whatever. And then so that gets Beetlejuice involved. And then Beetlejuice kind of gets, and they kind of do it in this movie where Beetlejuice drops the flyer, for the daughter to see, and almost kind of gets the daughter. So that could have still kind of happened. But it's through this kind of mother-daughter drama and tension that then the boyfriend gets kind of connected. And then the mom is anti-boyfriend. No, you shouldn't, whatever, or I don't know, something they could have still kept the heart of that storyline.
Yeah.
But it really becomes about the mother-daughter estrangement and really not anything else. Like, forget the whole Justin Theroux and what's going on with the mom, and Winona Ryder. Like, forget the Dolores character. And so that could have been one version of this. I think that could have been good.
I honestly, so I think I agree with you for the most part. I don't think they don't need to change the storyline that much. Like, they really could have just gotten rid of them and then, like, keep most of the same story.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So
you don't really have to change a lot, because Beetlejuice is still, like, trying to creepily marry her. He's obsessed with her.
Winona Ryder, yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, which maybe they could have set up, like, why he's obsessed with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't really need this. The only part that was interesting about her,
like the Monica Bellucci character,
was that whole sequence of their backstory. That like was all very interesting, but then they didn't do anything with it.
Because she basically disappears and it comes back just at the end.
Yeah, and then the way that they, like, get rid of her is a very, like, unsatisfying ending. So yeah.
What was your other
my
idea?
other thought was when I thought he was gonna come back.
Who's he?
Jeremy.
Oh, Jeremy, yeah.
When I thought Jeremy was gonna come back,
I
thought he was going to join forces with
Monica
Bellucci's character and become a soul sucker, because he was also obsessed with living forever.
That would have simplified it if they joined forces.
Because they both wanted to, like, live forever, and they were both psychopaths. So I was like, okay, like, they have that in common. Maybe they'll join forces. But they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, that would have also worked.
All right.
Okay,
sorry.
so this is my other. I think what we were just talking about before about focusing on the mother-daughter, like, that would have been the easy way to clean up the story.
Yeah.
But I like the Monica Bellucci character, like you. I like the backstory of Beetlejuice. And what I wanted different from the first one was I wanted Beetlejuice to be more of a prominent main character. And so the version that I think I would have wanted, that I think could have been better, is this movie starts off as the catalyst with Monica Bellucci's character being assembled, right? And then now she's terrorizing and starting to soul suck in Afterlife, and then you have the cop who's kind of going after her, but the cop is also going after Beetlejuice, right? And I think the cop, instead of just interrogating, he actually should have been trying to catch Beetlejuice to offer up to Monica Bellucci so that all the killing will end. Because really, she's just going around killing soul-sucking people, trying to get Beetlejuice, right?
Yeah.
So the cop is actually, like, hunting down Beetlejuice and being like, if I just catch him and just sacrifice him to her, then everything will be all good, right? So you have both of those guys really going after Beetlejuice. And the only way for Beetlejuice to escape is not by just, barricading himself inside the call center, which was so weak, I thought. So dumb. Like, he's just gonna, like, barricade himself and just hide forever. Like, I don't know. That was so dumb. Is that he escapes her in Afterlife by coming into the real world, right? And that is why he starts tormenting Lydia in the real world, which he kind of was already starting to do. He starts tormenting her, but because he can't get through to Lydia because she has so much PTSD, which I think is actually, they kind of hint at, which I think is good in the sequel, he then goes after the daughter. And then so he starts going after the daughter and starts at her school, creepy stuff starts happening, and then starts, like, presenting himself, like, because Beetlejuice could speak in other voices, right? So starts speaking in her dad who's passed away, his voice, and starts, like, calling out to her, right? And then starts trying to get her in that way. And then so Beetlejuice actually starts to mess with this family as a way to run away from this kind of world. And then, you have Catherine O'Hara, who's kind of, like, there just as comedic relief, and then she's maybe coming to help them or something like that. So she's kind of there, but it really becomes about Beetlejuice kind of stirring the pot because he's trying to get away from his ex-wife. And
how would that help him get away from them?
So then he actually gets out into the real world because through the
so then
daughter,
he's like, he can't be in the afterlife anymore or something?
Yeah, maybe she can't cross over because he's over here now. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know, something like that. Okay. And then but it really, like get rid of the kind of boyfriend thing, and get rid of the Justin Theroux character and really focus on Dolores and Beetlejuice and
Yeah.
her kind of coming. And then somehow she actually breaks into the real world like she does anyway arbitrarily at the end. So that, and then you have the cop kind of coming. So all of this kind of comes to a head in the real world where, because of this soul sucker who's come, and then you could have the soul sucker sucking souls in the real world, which would be even more terrifying.
Yeah, that would up the stakes.
Yeah, and so you could have really like leveraged that part of it. And actually, I thought the soul sucker could have gone after Lydia,
like jealousy,
out
yeah.
of jealousy, because she has that moment where she sees on the desk like the portrait that Beetlejuice has of Winona Ryder,
Right.
And he wants to keep marrying her, and then it could have been like Beetlejuice, like I don't know, gets into another contract thing with Winona Ryder, and then
Yeah.
that's why the Monica Bellucci character crashes the wedding to try to break it up because she wants Beetlejuice for herself, so really more of that kind of thing. And kind of remove the boyfriend and Justin Theroux. So I think in either version, like Justin Theroux is kind of superfluous, and you pick one of the two bad antagonists and kind of focus the story around them.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of that version?
No, I think that's good. I mean, I think that would have been a good movie too. It definitely would have been less about the daughter, I feel like, because then Beetlejuice would take center stage and the story would have been about him.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, like, if the story is about him, he would have had to have some kind of arc. And I feel like the only problem I see with that plot is that I don't think Beetlejuice can arc.
I think you're right, actually.
That's the only issue. But other than that, I feel like the plot is more satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe the fact that he doesn't arc, but he, they kind of survive, the Deets survive another kind of episode with Beetlejuice, and he somehow gets like trapped in another dimension. But that could have set up a sequel, like the third part of the trilogy.
Oh gosh.
For him to kind of get out or whatever. But this was such a big, financial hit. They're gonna make a third one.
I hope not.
They have to have a movie titled Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Can't believe you said it 3 times.
Yep. It's coming.
But yeah, I think maybe they still could have done it this way, and then like you said, really play up the whole him pretending to be her dad.
Yeah.
Because then, you still could have made it about Jenna Ortega's character, and then her being like kind of crushed that it wasn't actually her dad.
Because what could have actually been interesting is Beetlejuice ingratiates himself to the daughter by really promising like seeing the dad, and maybe even makes that happen, but really like seems like a good guy. And then so when Lydia, the mom, keeps telling the daughter like, you cannot trust him, that continues to like push them apart.
Yeah.
And then ultimately when Beetlejuice like kind of does his little tricks and stuff and then ends up showing that he's really not that trustworthy, then she gets basically in trouble, and then Winona Ryder has to go out of her way to try to save her, and then that's what brings them ultimately together. So I think that would have really been a more satisfying thing. For sure. There was just too much going on in this.
There's a lot going on.
I think that's my big problem with it. It was too many storylines.
That's like the main reason why. And I was gonna go down to a 3.0, but then I was like, you know what? I still really enjoyed it.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, I feel like I have to put it a little above average because I don't think it's forgettable enough. But yeah, I settled on a 3.5 because I was like, I was still very entertained and I was laughing a lot.
I am so surprised, but I'm glad you liked it though, because I wanted to like it.
The Soul Train bit killed me.
I wanted to ask you, have you even watched Soul Train before?
No, I know the bit though.
You know the reference.
Yeah.
Because I grew up watching Soul Train on TV, so I did like that he put that in.
It's so good.
So I like the Soul Train thing. What did you think about the whole wedding finale, wedding song musical number?
It was very much an homage to the original for sure. Like them like lip syncing.
With the dinner scene.
Yeah, and it was all very like silly and theatrical, which was like again entertaining to watch, but very like unsatisfying plot wise. Like, if I were to rate this on plot alone, it probably would be like
A 2.0.
it would be a 2. I agree.
Yeah.
The plot was a 2 because the payoffs were not good enough. But the setup was so good and the world building was so good.
The world building was good.
And the
Yeah.
characters were much better established and the interpersonal scenes were way better. I don't know. I felt like more attached to it.
Well,
Where I was like, wow, I'm like excited for Halloween now.
ooh, that's a high praise for this movie because
Yeah.
that's what it was
And then-
there to do.
And I did like the 2 bad guys. I just wish they like had more of a arc.
Yeah.
Because I thought Jeremy was a really interesting antagonist. And then I really
I
liked
agree.
her introduction too. Like, even though it was really long and ended up
Amounting to
nothing, but like both of them were like really cool. And I was like, dang, I'm here for this.
Yeah.
So it's just too bad that the payoffs didn't land.
Okay. So you're gonna lock in at a 3.5?
I think
not
so.
Not moving. Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna lock in at a 2.0. I am glad you liked it. I think all the plot stuff is what brought it down to a 2.0. But what could have really saved it was Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton bringing that energy from the original, which
Yeah.
was missing.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest letdown, honestly. I could have cared less about the plot if that was there
Okay.
throughout. That's what I came for in the sequel, and I just didn't get that. It was unsatisfying. And everything else, like other than Catherine O'Hara, like it just wasn't as fun for me. Like I didn't like Justin Theroux. And the wedding number, like to me by that point in the movie, I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. This is just long and drawn out and
Oh,
not
man.
very fun. Yeah, so I think all the rest of it couldn't really save and
So
make me
funny.
enjoy it. So I am really shocked. I thought you would also not like it because all the plot stuff would just kind of mess you
Yeah,
up.
the plot stuff definitely tanked it.
Yeah, but I'm glad that it was fun for you. So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess kind of mixed review. Let us know which side you guys land on. We were flipped on the original, and then we flipped the other way
honestly,
on the
yeah,
sequel.
everything you're complaining about with this one were my complaints with the original.
Yeah.
So it's like so funny to
It is
see
really funny,
how we flipped.
and so I guess it is maybe a generational thing. But
Maybe
I think there are people who like the original who will still like this sequel,
because this was definitely modernized for sure.
but still retains a lot of the original kind of vibes. too.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, let us know what you guys think. Also follow us on,
Letterboxd, YouTube, Spotify, Apple
Yeah.
Podcasts.
This podcast, we are at the end of the day love movies, and we
Yep.
on our quest to find that next 5th star movie. So join us on that journey every Thursday. And so next week we are going to be doing Civil War,
Yes,
which I'm excited for.
I've been waiting to watch this.
Me too. So it just recently came out on streaming. So yeah, join us next Thursday for a review of Civil War.
Bye.